We're here for Ron May. Ron was Chicago's bipolar Peter Pan, as likable as he was contemptible. Ron completed his life's mission several years ago, I think, and left as fulfilled as he would have had he lived another decade. His body was reflective of his mindset. It was time to go. He left this world with a bang, not a whimper, with no regrets, having railed against enough windmills for several lifetimes. Ron wouldn't have wanted to have been characterized as a nice guy or a sweet guy or a great guy. He was more concerned with his work than anything else. He was always a self-described shit disturber, always looking for the next scoop, business card, or carelessly unbuttoned blouse. He was not in the business of making friends. He was a one-of-a-kind, complex character who will be equally missed and not missed. He was one of the aging lions of the most interesting period in this city's technology history, and carries that torch with him to the grave, I think. And there are other members of that early period here as well. Jan will be speaking. I'll leave you with this quote from Hunter S. Thompson, which Ron himself liked when he saw it on my office wall. And I think this sort of summarizes his raison d'etre. Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving safely in a pretty and well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside in a cloud of smoke, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, and loudly proclaiming, "Wow, what a ride." And Ron took that ride and brought us all along as passengers. With that, we have the wrap up.
That's all right.
I'm going to share a word or two from traditional Jewish literature and then open up the mic for those people who would like to share, as we heard, 1 or 2 minutes or maybe 3. And then I will conclude with some general remarks, and as was advertised, we'll finish with the cottage. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the cottage is and why we're saying it at this time. This is a quotation from the ancient rabbis. Rabbi Tarfon said, "The day is short and there's much work to be done. The laborers are sluggish, the reward is great, and the master is insistent. You're not obliged to complete the task, but neither are you free to desist from it." And that sounds a lot like Ron May. Who would like to start off? Paul.
Brother Paul. I did nothing. I'm not Ron. Thank you all for coming. Ron would absolutely love this. He would absolutely have loved this. Make sure you put a card in the glass bowl. I have my cane. I am going to hit every one of you. Every one of you will be touched with a cane tonight. Absolutely. You will all be caned. You will all be caned. Absolutely. Anybody who didn't get caned was not liked by Ron May. So I really do. I appreciate it. I got to tell you, the outpouring of everybody coming out from my Aunt Rita, who's a little Meshuggah anyway, to my aunt was not able to make it here, but she'd love to be here, to Faith, who is was on the debate team with Brother Ron in 1973. She's a childhood prodigy though, so she's not that. And Frank Light, I want to mention Frank Light went to the University of Chicago with Ron, and he's a bugologist at this point, but he actually knew Ron in Chicago. And then I am going to say a couple other people here who knew Ron in 82, 83. A lot of people have obviously known Ron, and he's been an irascible person for so many years. So Ron was a guy who made sure that the emperor had no clothes. Everybody knew the emperor had no clothes. He took them off of everybody. About right. And he took his own off. He would go out in his underwear. He did not care. And I got to tell you, if you're here, you appreciate appreciated Ron. He touched you in some way, and he impacted you, and he was influential in some way. And so I truly appreciate all of the people that have reached out to me. Shiner told me a great story about his eating habits, etc. Everybody has said so many wonderful things. Ron was a character that really had unbelievable life. I mean, unfortunately, his body gave out, and it didn't go the way it should have gone for him. His mission was not done, which we need to continue on. I will tell you, honestly, there's that truth and honesty and making sure that people are held accountable for what's going on. And Brother Ron really tried to do that. And I see a lot of head shaking, and that's why Ron, and that's why you're here. Is that people really wanted him to make, Ron and people to make sure that they were out. I am trying to set up a scholarship fund, and I think that would be wonderful down the road, just as a memory, some journalism school or something in that aspect, and some sort of different tributes that Brother Ron had given, because honestly he did. He reached out to so many people. I'm here with JB, and JB took care of him, and Ron got his JB's son a job, and Ron reached out to so many people as he could. So if you peel away the onions and the curmudgeon and the Paul, get over here at 3 in the morning to fix my computer. I gotta get a report out. He would definitely, he would appreciate this. There's no question about it. I'm gonna ask, why don't we have some people say some things? I know some would like to say some, a few words. If you can say a few words, if you can keep it under 2 hours, that would be appreciated. On that, Bob Jarrett's, Bob Rude. Melanie, Steve? But I don't know, well, thank you all very much for coming. Drink up, Ron would appreciate that. And smoke a cigar by the river if you got it. Hang on a second.
I think I'm going to have to bail on this.
Bob Garrett is a longtime family friend.
Ron was a fixture of this community, as we all know. Some love him, some hate him, and some in between. And some vacillated back and forth depending on whether or not he was the latest target or not. But down deep inside, I think he was a good man and had a warm heart. I know he helped State Band Baby Foundation. He's one of my wife's and our passion, and it gave a lot of publicity to a lot of our fundraisers. And one time, when I was visiting in the hospital, when he was battling one of his many bouts of could have been mortal diseases, he told me that, hey, you're the only one who visited me last week. And I tried to talk to him about maybe being a little bit kinder in his emails and his reports, and stop beating up people mercilessly. But I said, he said, a lot of that is to stir things up. That's how I get my readership. If I say something bad about somebody, someone's going to defend them, or they're going to defend themselves, and we start a dialogue. And I think that was part of what was going on. The first time I met him was about 15 years ago at a conference. There were about 200 people in the audience, and Ron walks in with his cane in the middle of the presentation with slides up on the screen. And he says, hey, focus that, I can't read it. Banging his cane while he's trying to find his seat. And disrupted the whole thing. And they dealt with it. During an intermission, I watched him put his plastic microphone up in people's faces and say, hey, give me your card. So I thought to myself, what, I'm going to fix this guy. So I walked up to him and tapped him on the shoulder and said, hey, give me your card. And he looked at me, he almost fell over. And I took him by surprise. He said, no, give me your card. Who are you? I said, I asked you first, give me your card, and I'll tell you who I am. So he fumbled around for a couple of minutes and took out his wallet, and he took everything else out. He finally found the card. And guess what? I think I'm the only one who
Let me say something. Sure, of course. I've known Ron May since I was 8. Okay, in Lincoln Park. And I'm the one that broke the story to him about 1871 losing money. He was right. I'm the one. Okay? You could check the newsletter. I'm going to speak.
If Ron could tell us from beyond what we're doing right now, I'm sure he would be happy to give us a list of the symptoms. But I'd like to share my most favorite memory of working with the Neighbor Report. It was a BNC Venture Capital Group event. The usual tech networkers were there. It was a fairly conservative business suit-wearing crowd and a quiet law firm. Ron was up to his usual tricks, yelling things that went bland from the next room, eating all the food. It was my job to settle Ron down, to distract him. I started showing him the fun apps on my iPhone. He really liked the whoopee cushion app. He started giggling. Trouble is, I didn't know it was still on. So soon after the event started, all of a sudden you heard the loudest disruption. Ron tried to be helpful. That's Melody's phone. That's not Melody. You see, Ron didn't want me to be embarrassed. So what does all of this mean? Ron May is an enigma, wrapped in a riddle, wrapped in a sandwich between two business cards. I know this is true because I read it on RonMayFacts.com. For a year of my life, I worked closely with Ron as his assistant editor, and like many of you, I have fond feelings about Ron. The biggest lesson I can take away from the Mayor's Report is that Ron showed up. As the events that threw him out for wearing only his boxer shorts can attest, he didn't always suit up. But the important thing is he showed up for what he loved, for better or for worse. He wasn't perfect. But I would argue those most angry at Ron were angry because ultimately they weren't perfect either. No one died because of the May Report's dead over. Except for maybe Ron. And may he rest in peace. Thank you.
I'm Bill Bernstein, and I was not a big producer of Bill Bernstein when I was the artist in CELLAR, but Ron was a bag man. Always carry around his plastic bag full of whatever he needed to have. Always anxious for his car, but actually was very good at art. He really had a message, and I think that he carried it on well. He didn't really want to bash you, he just did, because he knew it would stir up some kind of controversy and I was, I guess, lucky enough to be in his letters 4 or 5 times. But he was really a good soul. Yeah, he came up to me and said, "Give me a card, give me a card." But you know what? It was kind of an endearing quality about Ron. He really was a good guy. He'll be sorely missed. And I just found out that I'm 12 days older than he would have been today. I didn't realize that we're the same age, but he was a wonderful guy, and he will be missed, and I will miss his missives on the internet, and here's to you.
Let me speak. I've known Ron May since I was 8.
Oh, we should get on the list.
Jan? And he said it was a collection.
Hold up the mic here. Hold the mic up.
He brought,
We want to hear you, Jan.
he brought a transparency to the tech world, I think, was badly needed. You can argue that maybe Ron was a really, really well-educated man. I mean, he was like a Renaissance man, classics guy. And that came through in his writing. And what he wrote, you might argue to me, it took some time, but it was very, very well-written stuff. And I think I will always remember him for that. There are two other episodes that I remember in Ron. And he wrote one of them, I know, somehow he ended up at the Divine Interventions board meeting in Beaver Creek. To this day, I don't know whether he just showed up or whether Flip flew him up. I don't know which of the two was, but he was there, and he was in tears when he saw the Rocky Mountains for the first time. And that was really touching to see Ron in the situation. The second thing I remember personally with Ron is I took him to dinner at Gibson's, and he ordered a 24-ounce T-bone, and I have never seen a man's eyes be as wide open as they were when he brought that steak up to the table. Priceless. The last thing I want to say about Ron is, and this is very relevant to me, I lost my father to diabetes, and I know what a debilitating disease it is. I mean, it's just horrible. And I cannot remember a single time that Ron May complained about it, either in the conversations I had with him or in what he wrote, documenting what was going on in the side. He never once complained about it. And I think for that has to be really in mind. So I'll miss him, and I say God bless you.
Yes.
And there was a woman across the hallway who was addicted to painkillers, and instead of taking them to selfie, gave her again, decided that we rarely saw her. But I think, just like Candace said a minute ago, the biggest thing was the food stories. I remember once Julie and I took them out to dinner at a Italian restaurant, and Ron in his own usual way, we did this ride. We would go out and we would order 2 meals. One you eat today, one you eat tomorrow for lunch. This one time
Well, it's 5 o'clock.
Good thing we started this before.
and then left, the 3 bags got switched. They gave the
Pretty well. I hear it. Good.
and the report for the next 3 days had one weekend diatribe demonizing both people in our life for this conspiracy of taking the class away from them. But that was it. During today's event, I think all people there, you know what? I'm going to ask you to think that
I think you should answer the question. Yeah, I think he did. I think that was the same thing. Deaver got some money from
to see people in the city build successful scalable businesses and hold those that don't abide to those 3 things to the standards he would have. Most of those people are notably absent from this room right now. I urge you to take note of who those people are so that you can do that. And I think you're right.
all of you in respectful consideration for the life of a fellow journalist in the technology area. Although I've heard so many good things about Ron, I feel compelled to tell how maybe most of you all actually feel. I got to the point where I thought I was going to take Ron out. And I saw this guy, and I'd probably go back to David, Sholomite, and I think I met Paul and those guys when they were on Washington and the Chicago Computer Guide. But I would see Ron, and I really just didn't take him seriously. I just thought he was bugging people all the time. He was always disrupting meetings and causing problems. And one day he came at me with that cane, and he started swinging at me and poking at me, and I said, this will be the last day Ron messes with anybody. Now, I'm not a small individual, and I was determined to throw Ron out onto the Dan Ryan Expressway and have him be run over. And as I was carrying him out and about to drop him over, he said, why are you doing this? And I said, Ron, you have to go. And he said, stop, I'm just kidding. And so I stopped myself and I pulled him back and I said, you know what? Why am I taking this seriously? This guy really is just kidding. And from that point on, he and I became much more friends than I said, wait a minute, I didn't invite you to be my friend. And this guy would call me at 1 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, and then if I would answer at any of these times, well, I really didn't expect you to answer the phone. So I'll leave you a message. I'm like, I want to hear this when I get up in the morning. But so half the time when he would call at these odd hours, I would answer just so we could have whatever conversation we needed to have. And he would say, what do you think about this guy? What do you know about this? What, I'm about to read this story. And I, like a lot of you, said, Ron, look, you can't go like this. You got to look at this side and that side. And we would end up talking for an hour and a half, 2 hours about physics, about software, about all kinds of crazy stuff. So the people that said that he is a Renaissance man, there's no question about it. Because he was interested in art and music, I started explaining him the difference between John Coltrane and Charles Mingus at different periods of jazz. And it was like he was sitting there taking notes, listening to me about talking about all these other things. And we became, it's hard to say you're friends with this guy because you really wouldn't know, but you got to be appreciative that Chicago is a completely political correct kind of town. The newspapers and cranes are an absolute abomination to the world of journalism. They don't report on anything. It's just that they print press releases.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Somebody who has the nerve to ask a question and bring up something, like David said, I'm impressed with everyone who is here. The real story is about the guys that didn't even have the guts enough to show up at this. And in this town that is so politically correct, where there are so many emperors walking around naked as hell, somebody, and it took a guy and a cane and a wheelchair to tell it like it is and scare some of these people to death. They even got so scared they tried to run into the courthouse and think they could get protection from a judge. And the judge says, "You scared of this guy?"
Still going on, huh?
So Ron will definitely, like David said, if those of us appreciate the work that we did, then one time it will come to you. Am I going to back down and punk out and just call it? Or will I have guts enough to maybe pull a Ron May and say, this ain't right, what's really going on here? Give me your card! Because I'm going to get after you and stay after you. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Mart, and Paul, May, thank you. This is a phenomenal get together. A lot of these people, I'm sure
weird. Because
Warren.
Tried to crash my wedding with my wife Katie over here, and kind of scooped the fact that we were expecting a child, but I didn't really want to pay him back by speaking at his memorial at such an early time. But here we are now, and you know we're all talking about his legacy and what he brought to us. And you know, it all starts from the first moment we met him. For all of us, it was a very memorable experience. Mine was February of 2000. I had just moved back home to Chicago to try to compete with Ron, reporting on technology for Reed Prairie, and he did one of these squints. Oh! So you're the guy! I don't think he's getting the keen action yet, but, you know, you're gonna need to drink a lot of coffee and you're not going to sleep for days and weeks. He's right. There's no competing with him. And there's, say what you want about him, during that period of time in particular, maybe 1998 through 2001, there were a lot of the technology scene and the .com scene. It was kind of a carnival. There were a lot of people that were in it for the gold rush and not really serious about the work. And Ron was very happy to call bullshit on them. And probably did it a decade longer than necessary, but had such a tremendous time that it was fun reading him nevertheless. A lot of people are going to debate his impact on the Chicago tech scene, but if he didn't do what he did, I would not have come back and met my wife and had a kid, so for that, Ron, I'm incredibly and eternally grateful.
Let me go after him.
Hello, I'm Doug Hart, and Ron did write about me a few times, and it's not unusual looking around this group. What is unusual is that Ron was a paying client. He used my video mail services, he used my live broadcasts. And for a technology writer, he was just not very adept. And he threatened us to come over to his room, his folder of books, to help do a live broadcast. During that broadcast, he described himself as a man who loved all mankind but hated his neighbor. I don't know if that was accurate, but certainly it was funny. And then the second thing I wanted to say was that one night we were at a networking event and Ron wanted a ride home. So I promised him I'd give him a ride home that night. And that was the infamous night when his recorder, his tape recorder, was grabbed from his hand and thrown into the toilet. And if there ever was a night when Ron was flummoxed, he was flummoxed at that moment. But when we finally drove him home that night, he had regained his equilibrium and talking about everything that was in the world. So here's to Ron.
Thanks.
Go get there.
My name is Jeff Solter, and I'm not part of the tech community. I used to work in the same building with Ron. I worked in the basement. I ran a print shop, and he would stop by at any time of the night or day to talk to me. He'd walk in, and something would be on the radio like Louie, and he'd ask me, I know that song. Are they still big? And I'd say, no, Ron, that song's 30 years old. They only had that one hit. Well, you can't build a career on one hit. The thing I remember most about Ron was one morning I had to work all night and I was leaving at about 7 in the morning. And Ron was coming in and he sees me coming out and he says, I haven't had breakfast yet. Will you come to breakfast with me? And so we went to the Rainbow Restaurant over on Clark Street and I believe he ordered the entire left side of the menu. He had pancakes and toast and bacon and eggs and hash browns. And he had this enormous spread of food in front of him. And he asked, do you have dietetic syrup? I'm a diabetic. I can't eat regular syrup. And they said, no, we don't. So he grabbed the regular syrup and he said, "What are you gonna do?" Poured it out his drink.
Thanks. Record me.
Hang on, go on.
Hi, my name's Mart. I'm with Windy City SDR. I've known Ron May since I was 8 years old, living in Lincoln Park. And I remember him in Lincoln Park when the Jews would have all their traditional garb on, and he'd be looking like a regular American, and they would be cursing him out up and down the street on Broadway and Clark Street because he refused to wear the hair and the hat and the traditional Jewish garb. And anyway, Ron May, also I gave him the story with regard to 1871 losing money and whatnot, and he thanked me for it and posted it amongst his last newsletters. He posted about Martin Shield reporting that 1871 had been losing money, irrespective of how they've been treating other Chicagoans that are true technologists. And he said that he was going to clarify as to whether or not I was correct on that story. Prior to his death, he did call me up 2, 3 in the morning, just like Chris Montgomery had stated earlier. He called me 2 or 3 in the morning. He said he had spoken with 2 or 3 people that were present at that meeting to confirm what I had stated. And he had thanked me and stated that I had given him one of the best stories of his life, though it has yet to be fully indulged in this newsletter. God bless you, Ron May. I've known you since I was 8. I've watched you get cursed out by your own. I love you very much. He was always his own person, period.
Thank you. Martin, thank you.
Thank you.